Mark, where are you going? Mom, I'm going over there to deal with Shell. And do what? Hit her? Mark, don't go over there and put your hands on that girl. I didn't raise you like that. Mom, I don't know what else to do. Mina promised not to call the police on her because I asked her not to. And I promised Mina I would deal with Shell. She should be in jail right now. She should have gone the first time. I hear you, son, but if you feel you have to hit on her to get her to act right, I'd rather you leave her. I thought that's what I was doing. That's why I'm over here with you. Hello, Nikki, and welcome to Rock With Me.
Thanks, Sheree. Thanks for having me.
Today, we're going to be discussing Chapter 22 of Head Trauma, Time Out. Now, the subtitle or the subsubject of this discussion is going to be called When Men Handle Women. So, just a quick recap of this for content. Mark is now living with his mom after breaking it off with Michelle. And he decided to go golfing. He's out with his boys. He comes back to his mom's house, and his mom, lets him know that Shell and his sister Mina have been trying to get in touch with him all day. So after he eats, he gives, he turns on his phone because he had it off so that he wouldn't be disturbed by golfing. And then when he turns on his call, he gets all these notifications. Well, he calls his sister Mina back, and his sister informs him that Michelle goes back by Crystal's house, his ex-fiance, to fight her again. So Mina tells him that her and Crystal decided that they were going to call the authorities um, uh, on Michelle because they're just sick and tired of her doing this. And Mark decides that he didn't want her to go to jail, so he promises his sister Mina that he was going to handle the situation. And his way of handling it was to put hands on her. So, he was getting ready to put hands on her, and his mom talked him out of it. Now, in your opinion, do you think that Mark trying to save Shell from going to jail by handling her was a good idea for him?
Well, I don't think that was very a good idea. Um, I can understand because he's frustrated, and she keeps going to fight over there, and I think all his avenues have been, he's done everything he can. Only thing he got left to do is just lay hands on her. But if he lays hands on her, he's going to jail. So, you know, that would not have been good for him at all.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I see, his intentions are kind of good, I guess. And I know, that even with me, like sometimes we want stuff for somebody else so bad, more than them, that we tend to put ourselves in a situation. But even though, even if he didn't go to jail, say she didn't call on him,
Hmm.
something bad can happen. Like, he can smack her and she can fall some kind of weird way, hit her head on the nail, and die. So although he's trying to save her from going to jail, and I get it, that's her son's mother,
Hmm.
his son's mother rather, it still is not good for him, especially, because to me, I have a different tolerance for grown folk.
Right.
Like, it's if you're not getting the first, second, and third time, it's time for you to kind of learn the hard way. So
Yeah.
I do, I like I said, I get his intentions because Mark isn't a bad guy. And I've
Mm-mm.
seen this, even in one of my brothers, he never put hands on me. Well, we had fights when we were little, but when he got
Right.
a certain age, my mom told him don't hit girls, and he didn't. And he ended up with somebody who actually kind of liked that. Like, sometimes women do, if they grow up in a hostile environment, they
Yeah.
think that love, like a man hitting me is okay, and they may provoke that. And so even good men can kind of turn bad if you end up with somebody who's driving you there.
Right. Toxic.
Yes. No, I am a firm believer. I think Shell, he needed to let her go through her own pain, because
Hmm.
I'm learning, of course we don't like pain, but I'm learning that pain sometimes is one of like our best teacher. Sometimes I know, I mean, if I be honest, there were some things people just tried to tell me and I didn't listen. And it wasn't until things happened, that were adverse, that caused me pain, that I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. I understand what they meant.
Right.
Um, and then there was something my aunt used to say. She used to say, you don't believe fat me greasy. You ever heard that saying?
Yes. That-
Pretty much, you're not gonna get it until something happens.
right. Exactly.
And
You are
so,
right about that, Ray.
yeah, so now this second question, have you ever experienced physical abuse from a man?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Couple times.
Do you feel comfortable sharing anything? It doesn't have to be deep,
I
but
I don't mind sharing that because that was, in my past, and I've healed from that. I never stopped it from allowing me to love somebody else or trust somebody else, because that's not the same person. Every man that I dealt with was different. Even if they kind of did some of the things, it was still they were still different. So I couldn't even compare nobody to anyone. When it came to like a physical abuse, I think I think the most one that I remember the most is my ex-husband. It wasn't physical at first, but towards the end, it became physical. So when it became physical, I became physical
mm,
because I didn't know how to use my mouth. I didn't cut into people like that. So the only thing I could do was fight. So even as far as like even trying to fight for my life. So let me see. One time I remember we were at home one night and I had been praying, and that day had an outside baby. So the mother tried attacked me that day and called and put a restraining order on me. So when you're in the medical field, that'll mess you up.
mhm,
So my best friend, the boss, got the ding to her phone that I had got arrested. She called my bestie. She's like, something wrong with Nikki. She's like, no, I'll call her, see what's up. So she covered it. But I, um, so I got out of that. Later on that night, we were talking about, and I was really upset, because I'm like, she could have ruined my life. You need to control your situation. You know what I'm saying? And she hates me because he never left me for her. And that was his fault. He was messy, So later on that night, he was talking to me and he got real verbal with me, talking about that's why your kids don't like you, and they're gonna hate your guts and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, don't say that, because the kids were standing there. He picked me up by my neck and slammed me. into the stove,
Mm.
and my kids were standing there. And when they seen that, they started to dislike him. So they wouldn't call him dad anymore. They would just say, ask for stuff without calling him anything. He's choked me, oof, a lot of times. So I guess I should say I should have died a lot of times. You know, um,
Yeah.
it's a yeah. I've endured quite a bit, but I'm still here.
Amen. Yeah, I know like my very first time, I didn't see my mom go through any abuse except for this one guy. I remember he slapped her and he left a handprint in her face. And me and my brother, we were in the closet. My brother had a bat and he was ready to hit him, but we were little. We were like 7 or 8. But for the
Oh,
most part, I didn't see that. The first time I experienced that was with my high school sweetheart. Um, it started out because I said I would never be, I would never be that one that would be abused. But I guess he caught me off guard because I was like real cool. In high school, I was real cool. I was, kind of like that chick that people came to tell their deep dark secrets to,
right, yes.
both men and young men and young women. And so I never thought I would find myself in that situation. But my ex, it started with him, like I would always find him cheating on me. And then anytime I try to break up with him, I think this time, I was just like, it's over. And he had cornered me. It was a class that we had kind of like down in the basement of the school. And so he had, cornered me down there, and he had grabbed my arm and he was squeezing it a little too hard. So that's when I kind of noticed, like, okay, he's getting aggressive. And so it kind of progressed to like snatching me. And then he will apologize. So, and that usually like when men start doing that, they're pretty much progressing into like the full blown. And I had in the back of my mind, like my mom always said, if a man hit you once, they'll hit you again. But he hadn't like fully hit me yet. But then there was one time where he had went off to college and I was a senior, and I had wrote a letter to a guy that I was just friends with. He was in Tennessee, and he found it, and he said he had threatened me like I'm gonna beat your butt. I don't know where he got that from. I
Mm.
think he was probably with a friend who was doing that and just decided let me try this on Sheree.
Right.
So I was leaving school and he had came to pick me up, and I was walking past and he was like, "Hey, get in the car." And I was like, "What?" And I knew, from the threat, I was like, "I'm not getting in the car. I'm just going to catch the bus." He's like, "Get in the car." So he literally wrestled me in the car, took me back to his house, and we were arguing, and then he just started slapping me, and like I said, I didn't know what to do at that point. Girl, I picked up it was a basket of fruit, fake fruit on his table, and I just picked it up and threw it at him. And then I had grabbed for the cast iron skillet, but I
Hmm.
really didn't, like, I was in that position as like I need to defend myself, but I really didn't want to hurt him. But
Right.
he bagged off and I put it down, and then when I put it down, he like really got dug into me.
Mm.
And so, and dragged me outside, and people were just standing around watching. Like nobody helped me. And I guess I look at it now because, people, sometimes I see how that goes. Like with me, after that, it was over. But I know a lot of women usually stay in like abusive relationships, but after that, it was over for me. And I ended up finding out I was pregnant. But
Oh,
that was,
okay.
yeah, that was the first time. That I experienced that, and that was, like, to me, tragic, not tragic, but it was like, "Wow, I can't believe that happened," and I said, "That would never happen to me again." Um, Meaning that I would, because I was, kinda doing the replay, like, "I shoulda hit him with the with the
Right.
skillet." And so when I got married, to, like, my ex, he caught me off guard, because when I was his girlfriend, he treated me one way, and then when we got married, it literally changed almost immediately. Like 3 days into my marriage, I found myself in a headlock.
Oh.
Um, and he started it was, because his one of his cousins were going to prom,
Hmm.
and I was like, "Oh, I wanna take a picture with you." And dipped in to get in a picture with her, and he looked at me and said, "Get out the picture. Like, get out the picture like this." In front of it was a bunch of people there. Girl, like Ike. Like he was Ike and I was Tina. So I got out and I said, I walked away kind of scared, and I said, "Wait a minute. Who are you talking to?" I didn't say who. We started arguing because I snapped out of it because it caught me off guard. He never had done that before. But I realized, like, once I married him, I felt like he looked at me as his property and not his girlfriend.
Right.
And so from there, I remembered that from my boyfriend in high school. Like, I'm never gonna be. We fit to fight, So that's how our marriage started. Like, I was like, no, And so it was tit for tat. He did this, I did that,
Mm,
and I felt it was just chaotic. It was very toxic at first. And then the thing that got me to realize, like, I don't want this is one day, because that went on for a couple of years. But it was one day when I wanted to buy. I went and bought this section. It was a Italian leather cream sectional, and I was buying it from somebody, kind of off. I don't know if it was Craigslist, but it was something like that.
mhm,
So we had got the U-Haul that morning, and I had made the kids anything to eat because we had to get up really early to get it. So we go and get the cream sectional, came back, and then he said he was going to go pick up a table. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to go and make, I'll make them breakfast. So I was making breakfast, and he comes in and he's pissed off. He's like, "You got your couch and that's all you wanted. I told you I was going to get a table. I need help with the table." I said, "Why didn't you just say that?" And he said, "Well, you obviously, you should have obviously known that I needed help." And I'm thinking in my mind, "You're a man. Why do I need to help you with a table? And if you needed help, just say it. Like, I'm cooking for the kids." So he was just in a spirit, girl. So he was like cussing at me, and then he was like, "I should flip this stuff on the floor." And he literally took their food in front of them. They're sitting at the table waiting. He took their food and flipped it on the floor, and he started laughing. And then I went and I was, had started bringing some. It was ended up being like a studio table, and I didn't know anything about like music studios or whatever. And table, you talking about table, I'm thinking of a card table. So I'm
right,
kicking that.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm kicking that, trying to tear his stuff up because I'm angry. And then he goes and get my camera. Girl, it was just crazy. And I stopped and I was like, this is dysfunctional. I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to fight like this. And that's when I kind of gave up the fight. Like, I'm not doing this. And so that's when I was like, Jesus, I really need you to help me. Like, help me with this because it was just getting so bad. But yeah, that's I would say those were my cases of abuse. Now I do want to go to this next question.
Okay.
Have you ever been emotionally abused?
Yes, yes, I have. Sorry to say, it's it's been multiple times, and you would think that I would learn my lesson. No, but I did get them to change how they talk to me, though. Eventually, you
Okay.
know, they figured it out when they realized they didn't need to. I'm a different type of breed, so you don't talk to me like that. And I come from a battered place. So if you're doing that to me, that triggers other things that I'm trying to not um allow to come in a situation that I want to be in, or if I like that person.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to trigger, but it was so many times, there's so many levels to that emotional abuse. You know, they could talk about your body, my ex-husband used to say, you have a body of a 13-year-old. And I would say, well, you keep sleeping with me, so I guess you like kids, huh? I'll say something like that, then he'll kind of lay off me, or he'll say something like, Don't ain't nobody gonna want you. You got 3 kids and don't you're getting older, because I was older than him by 3.5 to 4 years. And he would just laugh at me and talk about me and tell me my kids were gonna hate me. Just call me stupid. Um, would make me feel like I wasn't a woman. You know,
Yeah.
it was. I bet with emotional, physical abuse, like I can actually say majority of my life. I could say that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And me, I was a fighter. Like, I think I would have, I don't know, I think I got my daddy's blood in me. So we're kind of like fighters but I don't like to live there. It's like I have to, I call it my Ray Ray.
Okay.
She steps in when the nice, loving me is being taken advantage of. But I have to say that I definitely was emotionally abused in my old marriage. And he used to always talk about I didn't have a butt. I have a flat butt, and so at first it didn't bother me because I'm thinking, look at your body.
Right.
That was me. I always had like I would come back. But after years of doing that, it really does. I think emotionally abuse is worse than physical abuse because physical abuse, you like, no, okay, this isn't good. But emotional abuse sneaks up on you.
It
And
does.
before you know it, like what I can say in the marriage, after it was all said and done, I didn't realize how much certain things he said or did affected my confidence.
Mhm.
And it really was, even though I would, I called myself getting him back.
Yeah.
Like he would say, like, oh, I was like between the size 10 to 12. And I would fluctuate. I always worked out. But girl, sister needed some ice cream to deal with all of that. I did. I really did. I'm like, I can't give up the ice cream. It's keeping me
Right.
with the Lord. The Lord was
Right.
keeping me, and the ice cream was for a while. So, I would teeter totter. And then I remember one time he was saying, like if you need to, like if you get to a size 8, then he'll be happy or something like that. I'm thinking, well, if you get to a size 48, so that's how we did. We did a lot of gunning, like,
Okay.
but still it did, because, I have to say, like, I like the fun part about him that we could do that, but that's all we did. Like it got to a point where there was no love there. It was always us ragging each other. And that's how, like what Pastor Ken said, when you're in a toxic environment, in order to survive it, you have to become toxic.
Right.
And that's kind of like where I was feeling like I was going, because that wasn't me at the beginning of that. I wasn't that person,
Right.
but I
Right.
became that, and I had to in order to survive it. Yeah. And then another thing that, now that I look back, I struggled with him giving me attention. So like, I did my wifely duties even when I didn't feel like it. I didn't at first. At the first 2 years, I was like, nope, if I'm mad, don't touch me, don't look at me, but we had
Mhm.
counseling. And
Mhm.
so I was like, I'm going to do my part because I wanted to see, God, I want you to come through.
Right.
Um, well, he saw my obedience, but he, chose to, he felt like I guess he felt like I wasn't ever going anywhere. And
Right.
so he would do stuff like, I'm telling him, take me out. I want to go on a date. I need some one-on-one time. And he he would come home because he worked third shift. So
Okay.
sometimes afterwards he would go to a bar with some of his employees. A lot of them were women, to shoot darts, to play cards and pool. And so he would come home and tell me how he would hang out with these girls who were his friends. Um, and so he didn't, like, I realized he actually was cheating on me. He was cheating. Like, I think we think that cheating is just sleeping with somebody, but I feel like cheating is when your mate needs something and you're cheating them out of getting that. Because if I was with someone else who was willing to do it, I would have had that part of me or that need fulfilled. But he was choosing not to do it. And I was very much clear about what I needed. And he chose not to give it. But he was very, he always made sure that he would share who he was hanging out with. And I I feel like now that that all was very deliberate and it was an emotional type of abuse that I didn't see coming. Yeah. So, and then there was another time too, or another issue I had, I would say emotionally abused. So, like my ex would take up for me if I was like if there was a guy, and I think it was more of his ego. Like he wasn't a wimp in that way. Like I felt like he would physically defend me. However, there has been times where some of his family members have attacked me, and it was always me. Like me and the kids would always, be around them while he was working and doing whatever he would do. So I spent a lot of time with his family. And so there was an incident. It really wasn't even a big incident, but it just showed me who side he was always going to be on no matter what. But we were just at like a family function and I was standing in line and I heard one of his aunts ask another person, did Sheree show up? And I'm like, I'm right here. And then they still didn't look at me. And I'm like, I'm right here trying to get their attention. And then finally she said to the other lady, oh, she's standing right here. And she never addressed me. So I was like, what was that all about? So when I went in, we ended up in the house and I just went to her. I'm like, what was it that you was asking about? It wasn't like confrontational. I just wanted to know. And she's like, oh, she was like, it ain't no big thing. So that kind of let me know like the way she took it. Cause I was like, it's not, no, I'm just asking, like, did you think I wasn't gonna make it? Did somebody tell you I wasn't coming? And
Right.
they made this big thing about it. When I got home, maybe 2 days later, I get a phone call from one of his cousins or aunts. I don't know who she was, but she didn't even live here in Milwaukee. And she called me and she was like, "If I got something to say about you, I'll say it in your face." Now I'm telling you, Nikki, this is when I tell you I was just standing in line and I heard them, dialogue about that. And she called me charging me up and I'm confused. And I go tell him, and he's like, well, it must be something you did.
Oh.
So I'm like, I didn't do anything. And so I just said, you know what? I just won't go around anymore because obviously I'm offending people. I don't even know what I'm doing. And then when I stopped going around, because when I was coming around, I was helpful. I help with this, do this, and do that. So then it was the thing. Well, Sheree don't come around no more. And then he'll come and say, well, why don't you go around? I'm confused. So it was, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what do you want me to do? So I always, honestly, I was stressed. That is very stressful. And then there was even a time where one of his cousins tried to kiss me. And I told him, and he told me, oh, you must have, misread that or whatever. Like he just blew me off. And I'm like, I know when somebody trying to kiss me. So that emotional abuse of feeling like I was, it was, no, you did something wrong. Like he would never hear me out, and it was always me. And no matter what, it was always me. So that to me was like a form of emotional abuse.
Yeah, that was. Especially when they know they doing it.
Yeah. So now this next question: outside of defending yourself, have you ever abused anyone?
No, no. If I've ever, like I said before, if I'm not never, okay, I think I'm as sweet as pie. But if you keep attacking me, then I will become that attacker. You have to literally, I have to be this high before I say I've had enough. I take a lot in it because I don't want, like you say, you don't want to. You don't want to be like that. I grew up with that. My mom did it. My stepdad abused me. My biological father verbally abused me. It was just a rough cycle. It just kept going. So after a while, I just got immune to it and just, took up for myself. But I think I just built up a brick, you know, and didn't let that uh mess me up, you know, any more than it already did. Because I see how people are when they have been damaged like that. It's bad. It's really bad. And they've really got to want to come out of that. But no, I've never been to want to hurt anybody. You start trying to hurt me, then it's time to try to get in my high heel shoes, I guess.
It's time for you to walk away. Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, yeah. I usually turn away first. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I'm good. I'm just gonna walk off, you know what I'm saying? They keep on. Then I got to defend myself. Then I got to get aggressive. You know,
Okay.
I don't like
And
doing that.
I would say I only remember recall one time, and I was 12 years old, and my mom, she like tapped out of parenting. So she would leave my sister, who was 2 at the time, on me all the time. Like I couldn't go anywhere without her. I couldn't do anything without her. And so as a 12-year-old, that was a lot, a
Mm-hmm.
stress. And so she slept with me, ate everything. When I came home, it was like,
Oh,
Sheree. So for the most part, I didn't mind it, but not to that degree. You know what I mean?
right,
Like,
right.
and so there was she went through this phase where she would always pee on me, in the middle of the night. Then I gotta get up, take another bath or shower for school. And so I remember just being angry at her, and I would hit her too hard. And one
Mm-hmm.
day I slapped her so hard she fell over the other side of the bed, and she got up and my handprint was in her face. And then that's when I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And I picked her up, and I had vowed never to do that again. So I don't know. I don't think it lasts long. It probably was maybe like a couple months where I was just angry. But then when that happened, I was like, I don't want to do that. It's not her fault. And so I had to kind of grow up a little earlier, even in my thinking. But yeah, I would say that's the only time. But anything else, anytime I got violent after that, it was more I was defending myself because
Mm,
I didn't really like violence like that.
right, right. I feel you on that. Um, yeah.
Um, Now with this question, have you ever experienced or have you ever had to watch somebody else or knew anybody who was getting abused and you tried helping them?
Yeah. Yes, yes. My daughters, you know, my youngest and my oldest. Um, she was in a. My oldest was in a couple of them. And the one that she was, the last one that she was in when she was pregnant with Ava. Um, he was really he was breaking her in like she was like a whole dude and she pregnant, you know. And her dad, I remember him one time coming from Michigan. Like he just showed up at the door, like, where he at, you know? And she's like, I don't know why. She goes, I don't want you to do anything, Dad, because I'm just going to go back and be with him.
Mm.
She told him, she goes, I'm just going to go back to him. So I don't want, no use of you too. He was like, you sure? When we call your uncle, we'll come handle it. She's like, no. He got back in his car and drove back,
Yeah,
but it's hard to see your children, in those situations, you know,
absolutely.
you know.
Yeah,
But
I would say the first time that I knew of someone who was being abused was after my high school experience when my ex, like slapped me and jacked me up. And I was confiding in this lady or young girl. She was a couple years older than me. She had her own place at the time, so I admired her. And I was sharing it with her, and she told me she was like, "Well, her boyfriend, he hits her, and he does it with his hands open though. He like gives her an open-handed slap, and she thought that that was okay." And even at that age, I was like, that's not okay. And I kind of lost respect for her because I was like, I'm not taking that. And so I don't think I've ever tried, I didn't try to talk her out of it because she was older than me. But
Mhm.
I did have a girlfriend who I actually went to elementary school with, and we had remained friends throughout the years. And when I was getting married, or after I got married, a couple months later, she got married.
Mhm.
And it was obvious, like everybody knew her. The guy she was with was abusing her. I mean, it was so bad. He like hit her with a bag of books, and I'm talking about college books, in her
Mm.
face and bust her chin open. And he was like, just really, really abusing her, all kind of stuff. And then when I got married, she, said, "Oh, we're gonna get married," and I really wasn't for it, but I loved her. And even my ex was like, "I don't think you should be in that wedding," but I'm like, I gotta be there for her.
Right.
But I said after that, because things didn't get any better for a while, we had lost contact for a little while, and then some years later, when I had talked to her again, she seemed like she was in a better place. But he did a lot of sleeping around with, even with her relatives. I didn't tell her, I never told her, but he tried it with me, and I was like, "Oh, I don't play that."
Mhm.
Um, and so just and I tried in my way. I mean, I wasn't as skilled as I am today in ministering, but I did try in my way to let her know, like, you need to leave him. And she was just like, she was believing the stuff he was telling her. Nobody wants you. And it was crazy because she had broke up with him one time and was actually on a date with somebody. And the guy was liking her, but he had her so programmed. He was like, "Don't nobody want you but me." And I'm telling her, "Dude, were you just out with somebody? What do you mean nobody wants you?" And I know sometimes when we're in that space, we can't use logic, and she literally like was believing him, so she left the guy who actually wanted her for this guy, but it's a mind thing, like he had her. I feel like he had her mind.
Yeah. Yeah. That when we're weak minded like that, and they break us down mentally. If they can get us broke down mentally, they can. We'll accept anything at that point. You know?
Yeah, and that's why you have to be strong minded, and this is one of the reasons why I know it's good for us to have girlfriend relationships,
Yeah.
and to sometimes even risk, like, because one of the ways of control is like I get you away from everybody.
Yes.
And I just feel like I'm a mentor at heart. Like I used to mentor even when I was, in my younger 20s, probably even younger than that. And we really got to catch these young girls. And I know some of them may not listen, but my thing is, as women, we still need to say it. We still need to tell them, because I believe that even if they don't receive it today, we can still give them something that when they get tired, they know what to do next. You know what I
Right.
mean? So if they never have the information, they just feel like they're stuck in there. But if we sit down and we talk to them, and say, "Hey, I've been here, uh, and this is the road you're headed to, and it doesn't get any better. The end of this situation is death." You hear so many men ending up killing women, and I don't even believe all of them are really malicious. I know it comes from a place of trauma, undealt with trauma,
Yeah.
because we all have trauma, but undealt with trauma, and they're trying to control us because they feel like we give them some sort of stability.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's many different reasons why guys will feel like they need to put their hands on you, but at the end of it, there's a way that seems right to a man, but at the end, the road leads to death or destruction. So, definitely, yeah, we really do need to reach these young girls. So now this last question, what advice do you have for people who think physical abuse is okay?
Seek psychological help because to me that's learned. When you think it's okay to hit someone, And that's how you're going to deal with how you deal with them if you're angry at them or just you think because you can control something. It doesn't work that way. It can't. But if you brought up that way or somebody put it in your mindset for it to be like, oh man, just slap her in her mouth. She wants to, she gets slick with you. I do it all the time to my girl. Next you know, you getting popped in the mouth.
Hmm.
So it has to be the company you keep and how you were raised not to think, for you not to think it's okay to hit women. I have five uncles. I'm sure they have, put one or two finger on a female, you could be drunk, anything, you know. You got to learn how to control that or try to. Because either you're going to end up dead or in jail, or she going to end up dead and you going to end up in jail.
Absolutely, it's no good. Because the word says that man's anger does not produce, it doesn't produce good results or something like that. Can't remember the scripture, but it's something like that where
Okay.
we get angry and it doesn't produce anything good.
Okay. And you right about that. Produce pain and you to lose your freedom. Or for you to get your own self messed up or mess somebody else up. You just doing a lot of damage all the way around
Yeah,
to
and
the
especially if you have kids, because then they're
kids.
watching that drama and it's like you're affecting more than just you and that individual. Like we don't really know, we don't really understand, I don't think, how much of an influence we are to people around us and how our life does not just affect us,
Yes.
but
Especially
affects so many people.
yeah, especially if you have daughters like I do. They hated me. You know, um, my mind wasn't, it had been tainted with. So I thought that my prayer, was going to change who he was. He has spirits on him. But that's what it really is. But, you know, um, they just felt like I allowed it and didn't do nothing else about it. But I was a victim too.
Hmm.
So when the parent is a victim, male or female, um, it really does, that generational curse passes on, and I've seen it. And there's nothing I can do about it but just pray that they get out of it, and talk to them if they talk to me. I'm open, so that's why I won't like, jab out or kind of control the situation. I just kind of leave it open so they can come to me so I can tell them how to maneuver themselves. And hopefully it'll work, you know. But they're good now.
Yeah. Well, I totally believe that adults should not be managing or controlling or disciplining another adult. Um, I don't care. No, it's we get choice. It's a freedom of choice, and people can choose. And you need to let people choose. And but I know, we can say this, but it's when you deal with your own trauma because there's a desperation a lot of times attached to why we have to feel like we need to control someone. And that desperation is going to take you down a road that is going to lead to death. It's not going to end good. So, um, and I was trying to, even like at the workplace, trying to explain the difference. And I got this from TD Jakes, the difference between managing people versus managing processes. And even like at work, like because you have like on the lighter note, managing people is kind of a form of abuse, meaning I'm controlling you because I'm trying to make you do what I'm supposed to do. But as a leader, that's because that's what a manager is, a leader. We're supposed to put processes and things in place, um, and not and control the processes, not the people. So I'll give you an example. So like I had a I was working with a lady, and so we had a crew of people, and there was one you can tell she was abusing her, time off or whatever. And so she's mad. Oh, she's using sick. Well, my thing is, even if they lied, it's their sick time. They can use it's a benefit. They can use their sick time. So if you feel like they're abusing it or not, that's not your call. You can't tell her she's not sick. And so she started trying to implement like, no, you can't do this. And I'm like, nope, you have to have rules, the same rule that applies to everybody, because then that's discrimination. So we need to, but now if we get to the point where she's out of benefits and it's unpaid time, then that's when we can deal with her. So learning how to manage systems in the way that looks personally, like if I'm in a relationship, that's called standards.
Right.
So I have a standard. Don't cross this line. If you do, then it's over. And then I need to carry that out. So I'm not managing you, but I am managing my standards.
Right.
And
Okay.
so learning how to manage the right thing, not people, but
Mhm.
processes or standards.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
I have to say this too, that I understand, a lot of times, like with Mark's situation, you just want to slap the stupid out of people. But I tried it, it does not work. Girl, my slaps out, that was one thing I was, quick with the slaps. And it just, it'll feel good for a minute, but you cannot slap stupid out of people. And
No, you can't.
sometimes you want them so bad, and you want to keep the situation, and you want to keep everything good, but there does come a time where people have to pay the Pied Piper. They have to, pay for the consequences of what they did. And
Yep.
that's when you have to step back, and that's with our children, that's with family, friends, and our lovers. And they get to choose. That's one of the things that I am learning, that we all get to choose. And most importantly, you cannot slap the stupid out of people.
Sure can.
It never works.
Oh, you are so right. I got to pray it out of them.
Hmm. Yeah. So, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that? Any
um,
other stories or any other things that I didn't touch on?
well, I think that one thing we should touch on is when, as women, to make sure or try really hard not to get into physical, mental, or emotional abuse because they're all different. Um, ask a lot of questions. Find out who he is. This is why we end up with uh, wolf in sheep's clothing, because we're just in awe. Oh, he fine. Oh, he look good. Oh, he loves God. He be beating your butt tomorrow. So we really have to figure out, how real they are, how true they are within themselves, and what has happened in their past. Because I think if we don't know what caused the reason why they've had so many breakups, or I'm one of them, I'll ask you real quick. Well, whose fault was it? Was it your fault, her fault, or both of y'all fault? That's a trick, and I answer just like that. And I get, sometimes they say their fault, or to him it might be both of them. But I got a lot of more of people took responsibility for their actions. So if they can do that, you're probably safe. But if they just blaming everybody and saying they're angry all the time, that's a red flag.
I do agree with that. Now I'm not gonna lie, I gave up on, because I thought I was smart. Even with my ex-husband, I thought I knew. Like he didn't seem like a terrible person back then. At least not to me. But I didn't have
Mhm.
some of the experiences that I have now. And so now, this go around, the Holy Spirit has to guide and lead me and guide me, because I didn't even know, like, the Holy Spirit was doing it even with him. I just didn't know what that was. That little voice that says, no, you shouldn't be doing that. That
Mhm.
tugging on your heart, you should probably get out of it. But he doesn't raise his voice above you.
Okay.
So we can override that kind of stuff. We can
Right.
override the Holy Spirit. And honestly, we need to start allowing ourselves to be guided by that, because he will tell you no. He might not tell you the because people can trick you. And then because God knows the future of all of us. So
Mhm.
he knows
Mhm.
like what's really in us. A lot of times we don't even know what's really deep down in us until we're in a situation that brings that out. And you like, oh, I didn't even know that was in me. So we can't do it by ourselves. I don't care how many questions you ask. We cannot, especially today, because there's so much trauma. Over the last few decades, there's been a lot of rejection, violence. It's so we're damaged, all of us. We're damaged, and
Yes.
we really do need God
Yeah,
to
you
really
do.
help us
Yeah.
with this. Yeah, so
Yeah, we do because I have a cousin. She is the chief of police now in another state, but was abused as a teenager. And then, like I said, if that person becomes abusive in all her relationships, guess what? She gonna be the abuser as well, and she did
uh-huh.
become one. But she has the most wonderful husband, and she's the police, and they can't get aggressive, they can. But she didn't really know not to get aggressive until he had to say, "Hey, I love you. Like I'm not going to hurt you."
Right,
Sometimes not all men are patient with that. They be like, "I'm out. Like I ain't gonna deal with this."
right.
But sometimes it just takes a lot of love and understanding and patience. But if God's not leading you to be patient and he telling you to run, run.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
Go
lie. I wish I
fast.
could have, but I wouldn't have my baby. So it was, and then I wouldn't have the experience. So I look at it now as like it made me into who I was, or who I am rather. Um, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I thank God, because he really will use all things and turn it around for good, not necessarily just our good, but for good.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to talk to you about it, or express it out to the world about it because there's so much abuse. It's so much different abuse. These men are killing us women because we don't want to be with them no more. Well, duh. You whooping my tail every other day, cheating on me, giving me STDs, popping out babies everywhere, and you think I want to be with you? Like
But
they don't understand. Like they're so emotionally messed up or broken.
yeah, but that comes from them not being able to express how they felt when they were younger. Like literally, this does stem from shut up and deal with it, and this is how they're dealing with it. They've been dealing with it. So that's what I'm saying. It all goes back to trauma, undealt with trauma, and it's festered into now all this abuse and violence that we see today.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. Yeah, and we see it all the time. I had a cousin in Nebraska. She was dating a guy. She didn't want to be with him anymore. He came and killed her and her baby, and the baby wasn't even his. It was somebody else's child. So
Not that that makes it right, but
no, it doesn't. That's just dang, leave the baby alone. It's not even the baby has
yeah.
nothing to do with this. But when you're messed up like that, you know, what can you do when you try to leave them alone? We're weaker. We're the weaker vessel.
But we can be the most aggressive when it comes to trying to get into relationships. So we
That's
gotta
true.
really, I really believe a lot of it, we need to allow, like, change our desire. We have such a strong desire for the man, and we really will kill off our relationships. So a lot of times we put ourselves in a situation where we feel like all we have is this man, because
Yeah.
in order to get him, we done came up against mama, auntie, grandma, our friends. We dissed them for him. We give up so much for him that then when we find out, okay, we're in this bad situation with him, we feel like we don't have nobody else because we ran them all off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we have to change our minds and realize the condition of our men. I honestly believe they're good men. Like the men we have in the world are the men we have.
Yes.
They're seeds. and God has to work on them. He ain't sending no more men our way, or the men that they produce is after their own seed. So
Yeah.
we have to allow God to use us in a way that allows him to work on them to make them good husbands and good fathers, and because it's us, and we're in a way. We're in a way. We want our fairy tales so much. We don't realize we don't have the knight in shining armors. We don't have a lot of them. I'm not saying there's not good men, because there are good men, but
Yes.
we're not matching up. So it's like the good men are drawing or trying to save bad women and getting damaged. And then the bad women, or am I saying it right? The good women are getting the bad men and being damaged.
Yep.
So we
Yep.
gotta we gotta have God lead us to the right ones who are prepared, so that then we can, as a couple, be an example for other people to aspire to. You see what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yep. You're exactly right, Sheree. That has to happen. You just got to stay in prayer and pray that we find, or God lead leads our husbands to us.
Yeah, but
And
we
that,
gotta calm down because we're too
yeah.
anxious for it. And that's all we thinking about. And there's so much more in the world that needs to be done. Like there is so much. Like for one, just reaching our young girls, being creative to do that will busy up a lot of our time.
Yep.
Reaching out to widow, because that's what we're supposed to do, take care of the widowed and the orphan.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Right.
supposed to be doing that. And so it's not, because even if you have a bomb husband, you get all of that. I don't know about you. I don't want to just be all in his face all day, every day, 24 hours a day. I need something
Mhm.
else to do. You know,
Right.
so you still have to find a purpose. Otherwise, he fine or you fine. How long we gonna do that for? Like, forever. I mean, if we're talking about being married, we're so consumed with trying to look sexy and all of that for him, and we should. I'm not saying we
Yes.
shouldn't. We
Yes.
should, but that's not enough to carry a whole marriage. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Forever and ever. Like you need something to do. So
Communication and your own individual space is important. Not too much space, enough to enjoy like your friends, or he can, able to go out with his friends, and then you guys can do your own thing together. But you got to even it out, space it out, and make sure everybody's on the same page, because that can definitely get messed up, and then everybody's missing each other, and the next thing you know, he done had a whole nother relationship, because you trying to balance everything and then balance it right, or vice versa, or find
yeah,
somebody else that gives us that time that we need you
yeah. Or
know
we end up in divorce, like we see a lot. Yeah,
yeah, oh,
sure,
definitely, definitely. I've always It's always, even when you go to marriage counseling, they always say communication, you know um counseling. I think everybody should go through counseling before they get married, so we
absolutely.
won't be in so many abuse. I think we could save ourselves a lot of trouble if we do that, because I believe if we're in a church setting and the Holy Spirit can get involved, and then it can reveal a lot of things about that person, and then we can say like, "Well, no, thank you," or
Yeah. Well,
"Yes, I'm
sometimes
going
we
to."
don't though. We still want I want because we're so fixated on
Hmm.
getting married. So it's us. Like we gotta want healthy, honestly. We gotta want
Yes,
healthy.
yes.
So
I am an aggressor. I can be very aggressive. Um, because if I see what I want it, right?
but a
But
lot of
that don't
times it
mean
may
it's
not
good.
be, yeah, or it don't mean that's it's really what you want. It may be packaged. Because people are good at pretending. Because I've had guys do this, like, oh, I'll change for you. No, that's not you. Like I don't want to force anything. I don't want to force you to be what you're not. We need to organically be who we are,
Right.
because you live better, and you're have more joyful when you're able to be free to be you. And that's
Yeah,
the truth.
exactly. I always tell a person, I don't want you to change. Just tune yourself up a little bit. Give yourself a little tune out. Check yourself out. Maybe you'll figure it out now. I don't have to tell you, because we are close to our 50s now. If that's, dating in our age range, whatever, and we all got to check ourselves before we really. I wish it was easier said than done. I wish we would think about those things. We can say them now because we've kind of dealt with them.
Mhm.
But there are people out here who still has not dealt with that or in denial of I'm not the problem people
Yeah.
or I'm not abusive. I just cuss her out here and there, but cuss her out every day. Or I just slap her here and there if she pissed me off. So you pissed off every day? You know, when they're in that narcissistic mindsets, I wish we could think more and get ahead more instead of always looking with our googly eyes and our
Yeah,
hearts
that's what we
sometimes.
do. That fairy tale. We got to before the fairy tales. We got to deal with reality. So
Right.
honestly, like you have to trust the person before you can go to geeky gee. Like
Mhm,
um
mhm.
yeah. I mean, it's nothing wrong because I'll tell a guy, man, I like you, but before I give over my heart the way I know, I'm not because you don't want to. I don't like to come across harsh
Right.
or nasty because that's a turn off. But you can say like I'm good. I can say I'm good at saying, I like you, but this is a problem.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, you don't have to be nasty to help men, and I know a lot of women, but they don't know any better. Like, they really don't know. Like, they just feel like it's either they have to be hot or cold.
Right.
And you can
Right.
still let a guy know like you the bomb, but this is a problem here. Like you're angry or you're
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I've had to do that, sure, right? Tell people like, nah, I'm good. You're too angry. I'm cool with that, or just don't talk to them now like I'm good. Why you not talking? Because you angry all the time. Like get some chamomile tea. Calm down. Like what's
Calm
the
down.
problem? It just calm. That's my favorite word to tell people. Relax. Calm down. Like let's you all riled up. Then you want to fight people, and you know, abusing people emotionally, mentally, and physically gets you nowhere.
Yeah.
'Cause some people change and some people don't. And sometimes it takes a different type of person to change that person too. There have been some women and some men who have literally stopped a very abusive person from being abusive. But
But that is actually you're gambling.
yeah, that's
That
true.
because you have to want to. Like everybody has to want to. If people don't want to change, they don't have to change. That is
Mm-mm.
a curse and a blessing of the that's a curse of choice. It's both a blessing and a curse. We have the freedom of choice, and it's a blessing and a curse. You can't change anybody. You can help them, but help is different than trying to force them. And a lot of us women try to force men. Men can literally say, "I'm not changing," and we still will be trying to change them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not
Mm-hmm.
helping.
No, it's not. I done heard a lot of people say that I'm not changing. Well, you just gonna be by yourself.
Yeah, but they can choose that though. I'm learning that I'm not even offended anymore. They can
Hmm.
choose just like I can choose. They get to choose. So,
Yep. And that would be a good time to walk away, or maybe we should step back. If you don't want to change, maybe you need to be with somebody else who can deal with
yeah.
what you got going on. And there are some people that can. There's a love for everybody. You know,
Yeah.
there
But what
is. There really is.
but sometimes God loved us and I always go back to that thing like, well, if you kicked Adam and Eve out your garden, what I look like, I'm not just gonna be taking anything either. We supposed to be made in his
Exactly.
image. I'm not taking everything. No, no, we got this gotta be a partnership thing. It gotta be healthy. I ain't saying it gotta be perfect, but I gotta know you like got my back. Or if you just got an off day, that's okay. Or if
Hmm.
some gotta make sense, like you lost somebody and and you just trying to find your way. I get all of that, but like just to be abusive and I ain't changing, but you gonna do this, you got a list of stuff for me. And
Right.
no, 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 that will not happen anymore, not
Yeah.
here. So
And my mom, bless her heart, would say, that's a form of abuse too. Taking advantage of the person, even when you tell them not finna change, and you should, you know, you're taking, you're controlling instead of just being, you know, equally yoked. You are controlling this whole situation, and that also can turn into a mental situation. Then, you know, my mom used to always say that, don't talk crazy to me, just punch me in the face.
Oh
She
wow.
said, she would say that because, see, those bruises, they heal, though they heal, but those words, they stay unless you deal with them. But they will, you see, they'll take you to the point where they'll, you want to kill yourself.
Yeah.
You're such a risk over a word than somebody beating you. Have you noticed that?
I agree. So that whole thing, what we used to say when we were little, sticks and stones
The
may break my
make,
bones, but
but
words
words,
will
but
never hurt me. And they
yes,
lied. Trina lied. They lied.
yes,
No, because words can't hurt you. Words stay with you,
yeah,
especially if you're not aware that they're killing you. Like, we play things and, messages over and over in our head. And a lot of time, if nobody helps us or show us that, what are you telling yourself? What's going on in your mind? And this is one of the reasons why the day we live in with all of these social media platforms and with all this distraction, it's dangerous because we need some mental time. We need time to think. We need
yeah,
time to process things because our minds just kind of pick up. I mean, our minds are so intricately made. Like God designed us so well. He said we're fearfully and wonderfully made that we learn stuff without even trying to
right.
learn, and then we're unaware, like, where did that come from? Like, what, even with songs, we're listening to songs and we just, rocking off the beat, but it's actually teaching us something.
It is.
And
You're
then
you're
before
right about that.
yeah, and you run around, not like, just like driving down the street, listen to certain music, and then all of a sudden you got road rage. And a lot of times it's from the music we're listening to. Because you think too, like on the flip side, you listen to some good Luther, or me back in the day was Carl Thomas. It put you
Hmm.
in the mood. It literally it does. Music does shift your mood, and your attitude gives you certain spirit. So we're learning stuff, we're picking up stuff every day, and we need some time to like dump, process and dump some of this stuff in our mind. We have mental overload, we got information overload.
Yes, yes, overthinking. I think, as they say, what is that? Music, what is it? It soothes the savage beast
Hmm.
in us, and like you said, Carl Thomas, I had songs that I loved. And even today, I was with a song, and my either worship music or different type of song. When it touches my heart, and I'm just swaying, like, it really take me somewhere. And that'll take me from me being angry like 10 minutes ago or feeling some type of way 10 minutes ago. It's going to get me back into, hey, I'm okay now. Just hearing something just to soothe my heart, even if I got to shed a tear or two, and I think we all need to do that, um,
Or at least be
dealing with
aware of like
ourselves.
how the music we're listening to affects us.
Yes, yes, we have to, because it will make you angry. It will make you go out there and want to go rob a bank. Or um what about that song that they had the girl stand on top of the car popping at the red light, they out on top of their cars dropping it when it stop at the red light, and all these songs tell you to do things, and they mentally plant it in there, just like movies. You see abuse, you raised with abuse. If you steady watching abusive movies all the time, or very sexual, almost close to pornographic movies all the time, what do you think you're going to want to see all the time?
Absolutely.
Pornographic, abusive, and then what do? Oh, that's how they do it. I grew up. I think that's okay. I see that all the time. So if you
And
get punched, if I punch you in the nose, it's okay.
and sometimes it's not even that you have time to process it. You just see a situation and you do it. So like,
Hmm.
I may seem cool, but as soon as you talk back on me, right away my mind brings up that last video I saw of the girl talking crazy, and then I do what I saw the reaction of the man. It can be something that like that where you're not even really processing it because you didn't have some think time to sit down and say, wow, I need to stop watching that, or wow, like I'm feeling a kind of a certain way, or dang, I didn't handle that little problem well, where did that come from? Like, why am I so angry
Mhm.
today? Or, at work, why am I so irritated? We need to be aware of ourselves. And I
Yes,
really believe that's that guy. He's saying, where are you? It's a band-aid for us to take time to figure out where are we. And we
yes,
have to do that often.
we do. What is Jasmine Sullivan had that song? I broke the windows out your car. You get mad? Oh, I'm finna go break the windows out the car. Now you
Right.
breaking things, and then it's gonna become physical because he finna come out, and y'all finna be scrapping outside because Jasmine done told you to break this man's window.
Yes. That simple, point blank, period.
Ooh, American anthems, so many songs, and you out here busting people, putting them in trunks, doing all type of stuff, becoming physical, mentally, and verbally abusive. It doesn't have to start at home. It can start with the things we watch, our surroundings. Somebody outside of our family could teach us how to be that way. So now we got to figure out how to save our younger people from going through the things that we took ourselves through, because most of it I think is our fault,
Um,
you know. Especially if we heard something or felt something was off and wrong, and we trying to fix it. Sometimes God don't answer our prayers for that. It's time to go.
yeah, but my
Mhm.
biggest thing is I know. Because I feel like we've tried. We've had a lot of people who've tried, and it's been some benefits. So all the good things were not for naught.
Yeah,
Um, but we have to get God back into the center of it. When they start taking God out of school, and I know it doesn't sound sexy, but we need help.
we do.
We
We
need
do.
help. So, we need God, and thank God He doesn't mind being our, or being, when we're in our sinful state,
That's right.
the alternative. He doesn't mind doing that, because I don't know how I would feel about y'all just getting in trouble, and then you looking for me to help you. You know me, I can be a little petty, like, oh, now you want me to help you.
Right, exactly.
But
Well, I'm
God is
trying
not
to
like
help
that.
you. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
So
you get that way. And I even hate to be that way because I think Pastor said it. If you see them going down, it's your job to pick them back up.
yeah,
Yeah. We just gotta stay in prayer. Everybody just stay in prayer, and if get God in it. If they don't know, they're gonna have to know now. It's time for God. These men and women out here is not playing, like they just offing each other.
yeah, and it's gonna start with us believers, because the word
Yes,
says that if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, then turn from their wicked ways, and then we will hear from heaven. He will forgive us our sins, and then He will heal our land. So, for as a believer, it's on us. But we're so busy chasing after our blessing and our purpose and our ministries and our. We become narcissistic too. And so
yes,
God is saying, no, that's not what I told you. I told you good religion was those who feed the not feed the hungry, but who take care of the widow and the orphan. That's the kind of religion He approves. But
right.
we've made it all about other stuff, and we have to get back to His desires in order to
That's
see
right.
real change.
That's right. You are so right. It's time, Sheree. It's a lot going on out here. Without him, we are going to
Hell
lose.
in a handbasket.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're gonna lose everything that God is trying to give to us. Because we're not understanding or not caring or not seeking, Him. But that's why we here, and that's why I'm in the ministry class, and altar helper, because I know where I'm supposed to be, I done ordered prayer books, intercessory, spiritual warfare. I done got one. I lose all my books every so often, like I'll lose them. But then now it's time to fight. So now I gotta get my fight back.
Amen.
I gotta get my fight back. And we gotta study our word.
Amen.
We got to, so we can stop, try to, get everybody to understand where love comes from first, and that's God and in ourselves. Because if we don't love ourselves, we become physical, mentally, and emotionally abusive.
Amen. Yeah, we do.
Yes.
Well, that's all I have.
All right, me too. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed sharing my truth. Thank you so much for having, an open board like this. You pick certain situations and we can help other people, Sheree. Thank you.
Amen. And thank you for rocking with me. Hey, Rock family. You know, sometimes certain topics can trigger old emotions. So, if at any point during this head trauma discussion season you feel you need to talk to someone, please do. And for some reason, if you do not have access to a trusted source, feel free to check out some of our recommendations by visiting www.rockwithmenow.com. Once at the homepage, select the Rock Challenges tab and then filter through the list available to see what may possibly suit you. Hope you enjoyed today's show. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. Oh, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you.